Strongly oppose it.
I call Maggie Berry.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Well, hard on the heels of weak gimmick, which would be about the epitaph of contender number 2, is he, or number 3? Where is the smart money these days? I would have to say that the smart money when it comes to the Student Loan Scheme Amendment Bill is on people repaying their debts. I too have had letters. The Greens were talking about this a little earlier, Mr Speaker, how they'd had elaborate letters from people who felt under extreme hardship, who'd taken choices to have a family, to get higher education, to move overseas, and then they complained about paying back their debt. Well, I've also had a lot of letters from people who are unhappy about the student loan repayment, and it is around the fact that they are not at all happy with the bludgers, as they call them, and the welchers, because they are students who have repaid their debt. It is a debt. It is not a gift. It is something that they have to give back. It's not a bribe from the Labour Party. Good sort. It has been in the past. No, we've put that on the straight and narrow. It is an important matter of principle, and I'm not surprised that the buffoons on the other side of the chamber don't understand this principle. But it is about entering into an obligation and then fulfilling that obligation. As a nation, we need students. They're special, they need to be cultivated, they need to get a good education. They also need to take personal responsibility, own up to the agreement that they made and pay their debts back. That's fair, that's why we gave them to them. If they don't do that, why should they get special treatment? Why should they not be treated in the same way as all other tax defaulters are? They need to be held accountable, and that's what we are suggesting in this bill. I think others have gone through the numbers. They've talked about the amount of money that people, particularly overseas, have paid. And one of the interesting things, because I did sit through the Select Committee on this, unlike a lot of the speakers on the opposing side, but when I listened carefully to some of the submitters, Inland Revenue, for example, had some really interesting points to make. And if the yap of the chihuahua could just stay silent, she might learn something to her advantage. Namely, that Inland Revenue's experience showed that 70%...
Order. There's a point of order. The Honourable Trevor Mallett.
I think 2 points, Mr Speaker. I think we are on the first reading of this bill, and I think that's relatively important. But more importantly, the description of one of my colleagues from New Zealand First, while I am a person who appreciates and likes animals, a description of a member in those terms is just not acceptable.
Well, I'm sorry I didn't hear that comment, but I'll just caution the member, and we are on a first reading. So, Maggie Berry.
I quite like to speak to the point of order. I did not mention a New Zealand First member. That was that member's 1 and 1 makes 2. The maths, Mallard, is not correct. So your point of order is wasted on most of us, if not yourself.
Point of order.
Order. No, I'll deal with this. Order. Now look, when I've ruled on a matter, that's the end of it, and we don't enter any further comments on the Speaker's ruling. Maggie Berry.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. So, as I was saying, as I was about to wrap up my call, Inland Revenue had talked about the success that they have had with the way that if they contact the families of overseas-based borrowers, that they actually do pay it back at a high rate. And that's because the parents are ashamed. The parents get the call and they go, this is awful, we're not going to put up with this. They ring their students and put on quite a lot of pressure, and it actually works. So too will these measures. Arrest at the border, it's an extreme measure that might be brought into position, might be put into use if it is absolutely essential. These are measures which we have to take very reluctantly to bring a small number of defaulters back into line. And a student loan is exactly that. It needs to be paid back because it is not a gift. And that is a very good position, and that is why, Mr Speaker, I commend this bill to the House very happily. Thank you.
Mr Speaker.
I understand the next call is a split call. Chris Hipkins.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, I think perhaps next time, before Maggie Berry decides to give us a great spiel about what happened at a Select Committee, she might want to check whether in